as it concerns the question of what could conceivably lead us as people, as human beings, down a good path that would lead to well-being, that would lead to health of self. Obviously, many things can be mentioned, including details such as good sleep, and diet and such. But two major factors that could be discussed could be called that of persisting in the path of so-called self-sacrifice and being scrupulous to not sacrifice to either oneself, right, as an idol, or any projections of said self idolatry. That may sound complicated, but let's try to break it down, make it concrete, and really understand what is meant. So first of all, self-sacrifice, what does that mean? Are we saying that in order to be healthy as a self, I need to go and just throw myself somewhere? I'm sacrificing myself, giving everything away. Let me sacrifice all my stuff. Let me give away all of my money, if I have any, all my property, if I have any. Let me even sacrifice my health. The mosquito wants my blood. Here you go, mosquito. Is that what we're saying? Not necessarily. We would rather mean that in order to attain to anything such as is objective, such as is true, we need to give up something lesser. We need to give up what we may want vis-a-vis our lower nature, so to say, vis-a-vis our appetites and inclinations. So, for example, if I want a good relationship with another person, I have to, for example, elevate trust, communication, helping, listening, all that kind of stuff, depending on the relationship. However, at the same time, I may, and I probably do, want to do whatever I want, right? And to not communicate, and to be pouting sometimes, and to be angry at other times, and to insult at other times, and project my feelings, and so forth. I would have to sacrifice the lower in order to get to the higher, which is that good relationship, right? Say, my children. I want to raise good children. I need to be consistent. I need to show good character. I need to, again, not project my own insecurities on my children, all that kind of stuff. I would have to sacrifice that. Without that sacrifice, that might be exactly what I'm doing. Right? 1 second I'm like this, 1 second I'm like that. I feel like being nice, so I allow my children to break rules. Now I'm in a bad mood, so I'm mean, so now I'm punishing you, whether or not you did or didn't break the rules, that kind of stuff. We would have to sacrifice that sort of capriciousness, that's the right word, that sort of arbitrary behavior, in order to attain to the higher good of raising healthy children. So sacrifice in that sense, in a sane, sensible, healthy sense, we have to continue to engage in it. We have to allow, for example, our bad ideas to die. We have to allow our imperfections of personality to burn out. Hopefully, eventually, we have to practice in order to get rid of them. We can't be clinging on and holding on to everything that is low and rotten in us. I have this sort of fixation, this sort of pathology, and I believe this sort of nonsense, and so forth. And I'm going to hold on to that tooth and nail, like a miser holds on to maybe a sock of gold or whatnot. Right? We can't do that if we want to be healthy. If we don't want to be healthy, then sure. And in fact, perhaps we don't. But if we would be healthy, that is what we would have to do. We have to sacrifice, at least in that sense. Now, the second thing that was mentioned is that we cannot sacrifice to either ourselves as an idol or to any projections of that self-idolatry. Let's break that down. So let's say that I want to be healthy, right? And I'm willing to sacrifice a lot of the lower. I figure out in order to succeed in life, I can't be sleeping in every day, for example, until whenever I want. I have to get up and I have to work. Maybe I need a morning routine. Maybe I have to give up my addictions. Maybe I have to give up lots of unhealthy habits, unhealthy eating, for example, in order to attain to what I want, to some kind of good, professional success, personal success, to win, right? If that is permanently simply an idol of self, right? I want to be this kind of self that I can worship, that I don't have to go beyond. Look at me, the perfect one. Look at me, the successful one. Look at me, the one that has his or her lifestyle optimized and dialed in. Then I can sacrifice all day for the sake of that idol, but it will not really help me in the sense of becoming a healthy and sane and sound self. Right? I will still be stuck in the square, so to speak, of self, no matter how much sacrifice I do. Further, let's say that I take that idol of self, me, mine, my desires, what I want to be, again, successful, and I want to win, and I want to be beautiful, and I want to be smart, and I want to be admired, and I want to be wealthy, and I want to be healthy, and I want to live forever, this, that, and the other. I take that. Maybe it's unfeasible. I already have poor self-esteem. I don't think much of myself in terms of body and mind and such. So I take that self-idolatry and I throw it out there somewhere. Now my idol is the political party, the idea, the social movement, the group that I'm a part of, the cult that I'm a part of, something like that. The interest group, whatever it might be, the hobby even, the fixation. Here too, we see that a person is capable of a great deal of sacrifice concerning such projected self-idolatry. Now that I have projected my idolatry into the political group, I might be willing to give up plenty of nights. I'd have sleepless nights. I might be willing to get up early in the morning to go scream and yell, or to go, destroy something, or what have we. I might be willing to give up my money even. But it doesn't help me to grow and mature truly, because I'm simply sacrificing to still an idol of self, albeit one that is, again, shot forth into something else. In the aforementioned example, into the political party. But it could be anything at all. Right? Now I've heard of an idea, and for the sake of that idea, I'm willing to give everything up. I'm willing to sell all my stuff and be a pauper, meaning a home-challenged individual, right? Materially challenged individual, in order to serve this idea. But if that idea is simply an indirect way of self-idolatry, it will not help me in terms of growth and maturity. So where then do we stand? It seems that on the one hand, it is necessary to self-sacrifice. If I refuse to do that, and I insist on staying stuck, right, in the pit of self with all of my psychophysical issues and illusions and delusions and such, there is no way that I will be healthy and that I will grow and that I will mature. On the other hand, if I begin to sacrifice, but I sacrifice for an idol of self, be it directly, I'm sacrificing in order to be me, the most beautiful, intelligent, successful, such and such person, right? Or an idol that is projected forward, I'm sacrificing for some kind of cause or some kind of idea or group or collective or what have we, such as is simply a projection of that selfish, self-centered self-idolatry. I will also not grow and I will also not mature. And it can be added that here we can zoom out, because good things can start a little bit lower, right? Certainly, youth is not expected to immediately have everything figured out immediately, or in the short term, it can be perfectly fine and normal to, be motivated by extremely self-centered concerns. I do want to be the most powerful, say physically, as an athlete. I want to be the smartest. I'm going to study. So we're talking more about the long term, over the course of years and decades throughout our entire life. So again, on the one hand, need to sacrifice. On the other hand, can't sacrifice the self to an idol of self, one directly or indirectly. What do? Well, one view here to take would be that I simply need to persist in that self-sacrifice. And yet, always being vigilant and extremely careful to avoid doing so to an idol of self. And if I find myself sacrificing to that idol of self, become aware of it, acknowledge it, and then at least acknowledge the desirability of overcoming that self idolatry over the long term. As was just mentioned, in the short term, I'm motivated because I want to be an idol in my own eyes. I, the famous one, the super wealthy one. Fine, whatever keeps me going right now. But note that that is not the ideal. That is not healthy. And if I'm stuck there permanently, I'll be a goner. No good, right? So note the desirability of eventually overcoming that, letting that self-centered kind of, again, self-idolatry eventually burn out, even if it takes a number of years. And in the meantime, trying to perhaps focus our attention on and fix our desire and our will on our notion of what is highest, whatever that may be, which varies based on the time that we are in our development. Again, as a little kid, what is highest might be my little community, my family, right? The opinion of mom and or dad or guardian. Then what's highest is the opinion of the peer group. Then what's highest is my notion of success professionally, whatever society tells me. So whatever I can at the moment conceive of as highest, kind of bear that in mind and move towards that. And keep in mind that if it is indeed something that obviously cannot be the highest, such as the opinions of so-and-so, the expectations of society, my sense of what it means to be successful, that cannot be the absolute reality, right? Just as a matter of fact. So, okay, be motivated by it temporarily for the time being, but then be willing to sacrifice it and move ahead. So to briefly summarize, 2 major keys to being a healthy self that can grow and mature is self-sacrifice, properly understood, sacrificing the lower for the sake of the higher, and not sacrificing for the sake of self-idolatry, be it direct, me, right here, I, or indirect, whatever I've shot that self-idolatry into, the group, the collective, the idea, and so forth. Be vigilant to apprehend, meaning note any instances of self-idolatry, admit them, acknowledge that they are undesirable, and set my sights on eventually overcoming that self-idolatry while continuing to sacrifice self in the healthy sense in the meantime. And hopefully if we do that, we will be well on our way to goodness. Thank you for listening.